What's going on, people? I just got home. It's about just gone 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, just got home from watching the UFC 159. I actually went out with some friends of mine. None of them were really like UFC fans, but they made the effort. It was like a little bit of a social thing, and it was kind of cool. It was cool to hang out with them. But also like hanging out with like fight fans, because usually you actually get to talk about the technicalities of the fight and everything else, and get a fight fan's opinion. But it was a cool night nonetheless. It was really cool people, and it was a nice little atmosphere. Right, I am going to do a very, very quick fight review because I'm so going to bed. I'm an old man. Anything after midnight, I need to sleep. So I'll start with my quick fight review. First things first, before I even get to UFC, I want to go back and talk about my people in the UK. Audley Harrison, he went back to fight in the UK. He actually lives out here. He's just like me. He lives out here in the States now, but he went back to fight in the UK. He fought an American called Deontay Wilder, I believe it is, and unfortunately got blasted out in the first round. Now, Audley Harrison, for those who don't know, has had a very, very sort of like topsy-turvy type career. He's had a few highs. He won an Olympic gold, and then he's had numerous lows throughout the years, and it's a bit of a shame because his fortitude I definitely commend, but there comes a time where you sort of like need to know, maybe you just need to give it up. This is not really what you need to be doing for life, and I think Audley Harrison's sort of like reached that stage now. He's 41, and if you can't get past Deontay Wilder, who, sure, Deontay Wilder's pretty decent, but I don't know him as like some formidable force in the heavyweight division as of yet. So if you can't get past him, then you know what I mean. You don't really have much of a chance against the big boys, i.e. the Klitschko's. So good luck, Audley. I wish him the very best. I think he's tried. I've slagged him off a couple of times, just like most people, because when he loses, he makes a ton of noise before a fight usually, and then he loses, and we're all like, listen, mate, you were giving it the big, and you can't really do anything. But good luck to him anyway. I think he's a decent man, and I definitely commend him for his fortitude, if nothing else. All right, let's get to UFC 159. UFC 159. I'm just going to do a very, very quick, review of like the results. Tell you how I saw things. I had sort of like a bit of a makeshift day. I watched the first fight I saw from UFC 159 was actually on this iPad that I'm filming on at the moment. I was watching like one of the live prelim fights. It was Leonard Garcia versus Cody McKenzie, and bloody good fight. Really, really decent fight. Leonard Garcia, real scrapper. He really gets in there, and you have a decent rumble and a roll with him. And Cody McKenzie, also a really decent scrappy guy. A lot more proficient. I think he's a lot more proficient jiu-jitsu wise than Leonard is. Leonard's more of a wrestler and a decent ground and pounder, and he'll stand up and go toe to toe with anyone. So it was a really entertaining fight, very, very scrappy. McKenzie pulled it out. I'll be extremely honest with you. I'm trying to remember how he pulled it out. Did he submit him, or did it go to points? I can't remember, mate. As I'm saying, I'm getting old. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, so do forgive me. This is a really crappy review, but I'm sure the results are out there somewhere. You can find it out. Anyway, I saw that on my iPad. Then I got myself ready. Tried to do all the logistics, getting my mates to pick me up, and meeting another mate over at the sports bar that we went to. And when we finally all met, we finally all met, and sort of like we met, and I missed a ton of fights on the card, but the fights that I do want to reference, there was the Roy Nelson Czech Congo card. Roy Nelson, right? And this, I tell people this all the time, and people think, yeah, you're just saying that because you're not body beautiful, you're out of shape, and all the rest of it. But I tell people all the bloody time, and they do not listen. you don't have to be body beautiful to be a decent fighter. I mean, sure, you know, usually if you look in shape, then it usually equates to meaning that you are in shape and you can probably do some things in the ring or in the cage, but it doesn't always mean that the best built person is the best possible fighter. And Roy Nelson proved it. Roy Nelson is a pudgy, tubby, pot-bellied fighter, you know, man boobs and all. And he gets in there against one of the best built men. I mean, I'm a straight guy and he even makes me lactate, you know what I mean? This, you know, real tall, 6'4", you know, French Afrique, you know, French African, for those of you that are not in the know, Czech Congo. And he knocked him out first round. And Czech Congo, you know, I don't understand Czech Congo. Like, that guy's got an amazing K1 record, an amazing kickboxing record. And he never seems to sort of like pull it off and dominate in the UFC the way that one would expect someone of his caliber to dominate. But, you know, he sort of like wins a few against so-so opposition. Then when he starts to hit the kind of opposition that could get him on the track to a title run, voila, he pulls off one of these losses. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, kudos to Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson has amazing boxing, amazing jiu-jitsu, and a bloody amazing chin. And, you know, his body is extremely deceitful. Do not mess with Roy Nelson, because you will catch a beating, trust me. Anyway, that was the Czech Congo Roy Nelson fight. And then after that fight, what was the other one that I wanted to talk about? Ah, yes, there was young Pat Healy. Pat Healy versus Jim Miller. Really scrappy fight. Really, really awesome. Pat Healy, whoa, is all I can say. Wow, wow, wow. That guy, he's about to light up the 155s, because for those of you that don't know, Jim Miller's bloody awesome too. He's a really good fighter. And, you know, for him to lose to Pat Healy, I mean, he didn't lose, Pat Healy beat him. You know, it wasn't like Jim Miller was having an off night. Pat Healy beat him, you know. And it was actually fight of the night. Jim Miller got $65,000 bonus. Pat Healy got $65,000 bonus for the fight of the night also. And then he got another $65,000 bonus for submission of the night. And that's on top of whatever they're paying him for his, you know, for his efforts just to turn up and fight that night. So he's, you know, I'm pretty sure that he'll be walking away pretty happy, and he'll definitely be able to take care of the light bill, that's for sure. Anyway, that was Pat Healy and Jim Miller. Then the other fight, yep, it was my good man Michael Bisping and Alan Belcher. Alan Belcher was bloody good. I really was impressed. I mean, I wasn't surprised, but I was still very impressed by his fight. It was pretty much a stand-up fight. They both elected sort of like without, you know, signing a contract. It was like an unwritten contract, but they elected to stand up. It was pretty much a straight-up boxing type war. And Belcher, in my eye, I'm trying to think back and make sure I'm remembering this correctly, but Belcher, in my eye, seemed to take the first round, and then Bisping seemed to be taking the second and the third. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a messy fight. Belcher caught Bisping in the you-know-where, in between the legs in the first round, by mistake. It was nothing crazy, little graze. Bisping took some time out and then got back in there. And also, if memory serves me correctly, Belcher actually caught Bisping in the eye with his fingers early on. Once again, you know, they got over it and they got on with the fight. But then, unfortunately, the fight, in my eye, had it been completed, because it was a 3-round fight, 5-minute rounds, they were, you know, not too far off from the third and final round. And in my eye, Bisping would have won the second and the third. But just as we were about to close out the fight, Bisping looked like he was trying to punch Belcher, but he put his hand out almost like you pour with your jabbing hand to sort of like gauge the distance and then, you know, fire off your shot. And so as he was pouring, he had his fingers out and looked like he hit Belcher pretty bad in the eye by mistake. And it was pretty ugly, actually, because at first I was like, what's wrong with Belcher? Why can't he just tough it out till the end of the fight? but it looks as if he caught him so badly that he almost like cut the eyelid. It was like really ugly to see. And I watch fights a lot, and I don't wince at just any old thing. But yeah, that was a pretty ugly fight. So well done to both men. Well done to Bisping for winning. It's a shame about the finger poke, but the truth of the matter is that I felt that Bisping won second and definitely was winning that third round. So Bisping was going to win either way. Okay, so that's Bisping Belcher, Vinny Mangalesh and Phil Davis. Yeah, you can tell from my face I'm proper upset. Phil Davis beat Vinny Mangalesh. I was a little bit disappointed by both of them. Well, actually, more by Vinny. Still love him. Still think he's an amazing fighter. I think he's doing great things, and I'm sure he can still fire back. But you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. You've been training with Chael Sonnen, a wrestler. You need to be able to incorporate that stuff and figure out how to try and take down another wrestler. He stood and... there's the thing about us guys. There's an amazing gratifying feeling when you're doing stand-up and you knock someone out, or you just put your hands on the person, even if you don't knock them out. There's a really gratifying feeling that I feel fighters fall in love with. And so even though a fighter might be extremely proficient on the ground, be it jiu-jitsu or any other kind of submission art, wrestling, whatever the case may be, you will find that a guy who's wrestled for the last 10 years of his life and comes into the MMA scene, sometimes they learn a little bit of boxing, gain a little bit of success with their boxing or their kickboxing, Muay Thai or whatever it may be, and then they start to over-rely on that and almost turn their back on, on their initial art. In this case, it's Vinny Mangalesh's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We didn't get to see any of it, really. We didn't get to see hardly anything because... Phil Davis was, stuck to boxing, stayed on his feet throughout the whole fight, did not want any parts of going to the ground. And unfortunately, for those of us that are Vinny fans, he outboxed Vinny and, won that fight. So, kudos to Phil Davis. It was a very well-planned strategy. He really did his job properly. And I'd like to see what happens now in future with Phil Davis. He might... if things go according to plan, he might be fighting for a title within the next 12 months. That's injuries notwithstanding. And then finally we had the big fight, Jon Jones and Chael Sonnen. Oof. What are we going to say? Jon Jones is a bloody phenomenon, and he went out there and he put a beating on Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen tried. He tried a couple of things, and he wasn't just there to make up the numbers. He was trying a couple of things, but the final result was, I can't remember. Once again, once it gets late, I get really bad with my memory, so do forgive me, guys. But final part of the fight, Jones somehow got Chael Sonnen down on the ground, and he started pummeling this guy. I mean, oof. It was elbows and fists. Now, there was a sneaky knee that sort of like slid into, I think it was Chael Sonnen's chest, and it was very reminiscent to me of the knee that Chael Sonnen took from Anderson Silva the second time they fought. But, the referee didn't stop it. I didn't recognise that ref, and sometimes, like for the big fights, I like to see refs that I recognise, that we all know are formidable refs, but... this guy, he didn't seem to stop it, and then he suddenly jumped in and stopped the fight after Chael Sonnen took a few blows to his guarded head from Jon Jones's fists and elbows. Now, this is where it starts to get controversial for me. The UFC, we sort of like have a rule that says, you've got to intelligently defend yourself. And to me, Chael Sonnen was intelligently defending himself. The fight seemed to be a little bit premature. I mean, kudos to Chael Sonnen. He was a gentleman about it. He didn't, whine about it. There was no crying, but it did seem to end a little bit premature. So I wasn't too happy with all of that. And then, Chael Sonnen got up. He was clear. He seemed clear-headed. Yeah, he was bleeding, but he seemed clear-headed. And to me, he could have probably continued. So. you know, it's a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. And then we go back over to my man John Jones. John Jones, in all the melee, I don't know how he did it or where he did it, because I was in a sports bar, I couldn't hear the interview too well. But John Jones, in all the melee, broke his toe. And when I post this video on my Facebook page, I will try and get a picture off one of my mixed martial arts sites that I go to called Bloody Elbow, and get a picture of John Jones's toe. And if you are eating, do not look at that picture. But if you've got a strong stomach, you might want to take a butcher's and see exactly what we had to see this evening. It was ugly. I mean, his big toe was pointing away from his foot, away from the other toes. It was, woo, it was a frightening sight to see. And once again, I don't really squirm at too much, but every so often there's the odd thing that I see in mixed martial arts and full contact sports that even turns me off. Anyway, yeah, it was a crazy night, good fights, great night with some great people, and I'm looking forward to 160. My main man, Cain Velasquez, is going to be back. He makes me want to be Mexican as far as I'm concerned. He's an amazing fighter, and I don't see anyone testing that man in the very near future. So I'm looking forward to the heavyweights, Cain Velasquez, Bigfoot Silva, and all the rest of them. I think JDS is fighting on that card as well. Closer to the time, I will try and do my homework, get myself ready and do a proper review, and I'll also hopefully try and do a proper review of, prediction for the fight, and a proper review after the fight. All right. Listen, super late. When it gets late, I start rambling, so forgive me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will be back real soon. Take care of yourselves. Peace.